we should be okay.
But one thing I think is interesting, by the way, they're not actors, these are real genuine Australian accents. Before we start learning about the game and the really great story behind it, there's a big sporting event in Australia called State of Origin. Maybe you'd like to talk a little bit about that and the results.
Sure, I think it's more important that Grant talks about New South Wales and how they played against Queensland at 3 a.m. this morning. Fortunately, jet lag kicked in, so I was awake for the most of it.
We've lost 11 out of the 12 years, last 12 years. That's all right, because he's a really bad loser, so he's
even worse winner, so I'm excited. Fantastic result.
All right, the fact that they know about State of Origin and the obvious accents indicate that the two of you are genuinely both from Australia. And this is interesting to me because it seems quite relatable to me personally. Neither of you were gamers.
No, we're definitely non-gamers, I think. It's, we play a game for 10, 15 minutes, but we saw the power of what the games are.
And the two of you were in India, and what happened there?
Yeah, so we probably came up with the idea about 7 years ago. We were working together in India. At the time, we were just sort of playing some games and trying to figure out the best way to cut through the saturation of the amount of games there are. I think there's about 1 billion on the App Store. And so at the time, we kept being the guys that we are in terms of we're always working together and always travelling, coming up with ideas and saying, what might work and what might get the cut through. And basically, we were looking at different marketing opportunities and we said, well, why don't we just reward people for getting the highest score? And out of that, we said, okay, we'll give the winner with the highest score $1 million.
It was actually worse than that. So it was about 100 degrees Fahrenheit, I guess. I'm bad at Fahrenheit. And the village next door was celebrating a festival and they played Hindi music 24 hours a day, so we were sleep deprived. And Todd was standing in the middle of our lounge room at 2 a.m. in nothing but his underwear, sweating.
Nice underwear.
So I think the delusion kicked in. It was terrible. It was one of the worst experiences of my life, but it spawned a great idea, and then we went from there.
And one thing I thought was so interesting, because I think as we all think about this, everybody knows about these games and people play games, but surprisingly, none of the games currently offer big prizes, or certainly not big money prizes.
No. Well, it's funny. We came up with the idea, and the reason we didn't do it straight away is we went, someone's going to do it. There's too many big game companies out there. It's going to be done. And then years kept ticking by, and no one did it. And I think what happened was games really went into in-app purchases, and they realised that if they create a great gaming experience, then people will continue to spend money. And I think that was enough for them in regards to, they just wanted to attract people in regards to quality of product, not just quality of high score. And what we notice is also with these sort of games come up now where you compete against people, is the competition element actually added a really interesting angle where we said, well, now's right, we can do in-app purchases, we can give the prize money, and then we just bit the bullet and went, all right, well, if they're not going to do it, we'll do it ourselves.
And then here's the thing, let's talk a little bit before seeing your colleague in his underwear. The two of you did what, your business people or what?
Yeah, look, I've had a number of businesses and been quite successful in developing them. And I think what's interesting is the businesses have been quite varied. And what I've learned is business is the same no matter what you do. If you're selling a dollar candy bar, or if you're selling a $100 million opportunity on a mining play, it's exactly the same, it's just the zeros are different. And so I realised it doesn't matter whether you're talking about these different things, the structure has to be the same. And so when we looked at the gaming thing, we didn't get scared because we weren't gaming company. We just went, well, let's break it down, let's have a look at how businesses work, let's hire the right people, and then develop the game.
And so that's what you did?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was funny. Originally, when we came up with the idea, and then 12 months ago, we sort of got serious and said, okay, we're going to do this. And we had this minuscule budget, and we said, oh, it's going to be easy. We're going to get a game off the shelf. We're going to tack on the $1 million prize, and then it's happy days from there. But then we quickly realised that it was a lot more complex to that. The legals for one thing, the fact that we had to produce a fun, entertaining game that people wanted to play first and foremost. In terms of the amount of security that was involved in the game, putting all together the security so that it couldn't be hacked. Also, in terms of the marketing machine that was required just to get the message out there, keeping it simple. Fantastic help that we've had from people like Theo and Demont, so they've been fantastic. And basically tying in all of those things together, and then 12 months later, we're still sort of, we're very ramping up to sort of the end of June to start the launch on July 1. But there's been a lot of
it's a lot harder than we thought.
Yeah, a lot of components to it.
There's a thing when, right where we are, a movie opens or you go to a bookstore and see your book on the shelf. As this showed up in the App Store and Google Play, places like that, what was your thought?
Oh, please work. Please work. It's like, it's funny, when you develop a product, most products, you get it right and you launch it. IT is like this weird voodoo magic stuff that happens in the background. And it's like, it works, then it doesn't work a little bit, and you've got to fix it. And IT developers are like, oh, it's okay, code line number 100 just went wrong. So it was, I think it was relief that it worked, and then it was just praying that it continued to work. Once it started to, I think what really surprised us was how many wives of our friends texted us and said, "You are killing our marriage." And we're like, yes,
it's working. and just the fact that trying to keep the message as simple as possible. We kept it, win $1 million, get the high score, win $1 million. So that's been the whole thing throughout, trying to make sure that message is at the forefront and just ensuring that people understand that after 6 months, if they do get the high score, they have the chance to win the million. So, it's been a fantastic experience, and hopefully over the course of the next sort of 5 3/4 months that continues.
We're going to talk to people about how the game is played and how to win money playing the game. There's a weekly prize as well. You referenced security, and again, this is like a murky area, but you feel very good about it. That for people making in-app purchases or whoever gets the highest score, that the game is really secure.
It is, and it was something we never thought we had to deal with. You have a concept, and then you start working through the ideas, and like, well, if there's $1 million, what if this thing gets hacked? So then we had to say, well, how do you hack the game? And there's a couple ways to do that. So we actually ended up going to a local developer that was much more focused on back-end than on the game development themselves. They were good game development, but that was their focus. And I think everyone's probably heard of Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is based on a technology called blockchain. So every major financial market in the world, every bank is going to blockchain. We are the first game developer to ever use blockchain technology to store the high scores. And I can't go into it just in case people figure it out. There's a number of security protocols in the game. For us, it was we knew that the things we were going to face were integrity. Are you really a real business, and are you going to give away the money? And okay, if I play, how do I know if I win or get the money? So for us, most of the money went into developing a system where I can guarantee that if you get the $1 million, you are the person who earned the highest score.
All right, let's talk about that weekly prize. How does that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So from July 1, we did the soft launch of the game, and each week from now until New Year's Eve, there'll be a weekly winner announced. The weekly winner with the highest score scored during that week will win $1,000 US, paid straight into the account of their choice, and that will be ongoing until the completion of the game.
And then what is interesting here is you reset every single week, right?
Yeah, that's great, and that's very important to know that people, whether they're starting now or they're starting in December, always have the chance to win.
And we've given away our first 1,000.
Oh, sure.
Right.
Okay.
So a young 19-year-old guy in Australia, because I think we did the soft launch in Australia. He's stoked. He got in Australian dollars. That's like 800,000. 800,000 US. So he's very happy.
Okay, talk to us a little bit. People will have the experience. We've seen the fun video, to free download of the game. What is playing the game like? How best to play the game?
We wanted to make sure the game, I pictured someone like my father trying to play the game, who is pretty much illiterate when it comes to smartphone technology. No offense, Dad, if you're watching. But basically something that was completely user-friendly, that was easy to catch on, a few simple instructions and you're away, and just the fun and addictive nature and the continuation of the gameplay, it just makes you want to play more and more. Now, I'm not a gamer by any stretch of the imagination, but it does have that addictive quality to it that makes you want to continue playing. And I think that comes through the ease of how you play it.
And do you think over time, I suppose this is true, can you get better at it?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's interesting. You can get better at it just from learning how to play the game. But every segment is randomised. So each time you play the game, the first section is the same, and everything after that is different. So although you can get better at the mechanics of the game, you still don't know what's coming next.
And this idea of, again, download for free, play for free, if you want, as an option, buying lives.
For sure.
Talk to us about that.
That's how we make money. That's the key. I think you've got more chance of winning the high score if you buy lives. But if you're good enough, you can win the high score if you don't. So we started thinking.
I think that's the fair thing to do.
Well, we had to do it, and then you can only buy 5 lives. And the reason for that is there's going to have some guy with his kids sitting somewhere, spends $10,000, almost guarantees to win the prize. So that can't happen. So no matter what, the maximum you can ever buy is 5, and it costs $5. So it's $5.99. You get 5 lives for a whole day. It's not just once; you get it for the whole day. And but if you don't want to spend the money, you can still win if you could.
And then we talked about you're doing something special to have the lives have a longer life.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of how we're going to organise that, it's probably best for Grant to answer in terms of the longevity
Of the lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look, we're going to release a package soon where you can buy 5 lives for the whole competition. So I think that actually comes out probably about 3 or 4 o'clock. So I'll give you a proviso here. If your game tells you it doesn't work anymore, it's going to make you upload the new version, and the new version you can buy for the rest of the comp. So people can buy a 5 life pack, rest of the comp, and just play.
Regenerates every 24 hours.
Yeah.
Now, having had the experience, and again, this is exciting as more and more people get into it, does it make you think of doing other mobile games?
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
You should see what we're giving away next.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The whole country. Win the whole country next. No, look, it's success dependent, and I think we've worked with the developers on developing the game further. I think there's some 3D aspects and character development, but for us, the core focus is the prize. So it really has to be around game development, around what can we give away next. And look, I think it's got a limited shelf life. I think we can probably do this a few times. I'm going to be very surprised if after once or twice or 3 times, a couple others don't start doing it. But really, it's getting people used to the idea that I think game, as we were speaking yesterday, I think the game show, all of that type of genre is going to be moved to the mobile platform, where it's no longer if you get on a show you win money, everyone will be accessible.
We talked about a little bit yesterday, 2 of you obviously from Australia, but this is a game to be played around the world.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest things for us is, and it's exciting. Obviously we did the launch on July 1, and it was a soft launch, so we basically just launched it to our family and friends on various social media outlets, and it instantly got a spike. And I mean, we were having downloads in
Denmark,
France, China.
China's huge.
Russia, Belgium, basically areas where we hadn't even touched ourselves personally in terms of the people we knew. It was always already getting coverage. And I think there was a bit of a pause and a gap in people again being sceptical of these types of things. But then obviously the marketing is starting to kick in terms of people who, being led to the website, being led to the social media pages, seeing the, terms and conditions and those sort of things. It's again gaining credibility. And then you've got the first $1,000 weekly winner. And all of a sudden people are saying, okay, this is real. They're actually going to do this. So that's been really important for us as well to monitor that and just see from our sort of social media presence how it's been able to gain momentum so quickly, even with sort of, we call it beta launch or the beta launch, and it's been really impressive. So very optimistic about how it goes from here on in.
I suppose it's like chefs eating in their own restaurant. You've played it both.
We do.
What do you think? Are you enjoying it?
I like the game. It's really frustrating, and you die, and I've got to be honest. I've bought lives, which is so stupid when you think about it, because I can't win the prize. Just paying myself an apple, and I'm like, I've got to get on because my idiot mate is texting me his high school, and I'm like, I'm going to beat him. No way, I'm not going to beat him. So yeah, it's a good fun game to play. It's addictive.
Can people share their scores?
Oh sure. Well, we've deliberately suppressed the high scores to start off with, where we want everybody to start talking themselves, right? So there's people who are already talking about setting up a high school forum, and they're going to start posting their own scores and doing that sort of thing. With the security aspect of it, we're very careful what information we give out, but we're really happy for everybody else to start sharing how well they're going.
So we're going to, if anybody has any questions from the floor, Rich, go ahead, sir, right there.
Yeah, as a gamer, I don't know if you already explained this, I apologize if you did, but one of the appeals is to unlock a stage and unlock the next levels and stuff like that. Are there such opportunities in this game?
No, there's not, and the reason for that is we wanted a level playing field.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter how good you are at gaming. There's an element of, if I get it right the first time, I can go through.
Okay.
If you have to keep unlocking these next levels, there's that feeling of, okay, I'll pick the first bit now, I'm on the second bit.
As well.
For us, when you die, you go back to the beginning, and that was really important.
But in terms of how the game continues to evolve and how the offer continues to evolve, there's nothing to suggest that there might be a next stage of the game after this offer has ended or this prize money has ended. So from that perspective, the game could evolve itself from the next stage, but with the next offer or prize money or whatever it may be.
Thank you.
Right there, please, with the glasses.
Hi, I don't know if I misunderstood, but you reset everything every week, right?
We don't reset everything every week.
Okay.
We reset the weekly score every week.
Yeah, the weekly high score for
You
that.
win the $1 million, if you start playing right now, you have bigger chances, because the $1 million is about how many points you get or whatever.
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
from now.
technically, it's like running a race. The more you train, the better you're going to get. But it's not saying somebody who starts in December can win the $1 million. So we don't reset the grand prize.
Oh, okay.
So about every week, what we didn't want is, so let's say week 1, someone gets a good high score. We wanted week 2 for somebody to win that's lower. It doesn't matter, because every week is an independent thing, only for the weekly prize.
You never lose your score.
You never lose your score, never.
That's correct.
But you still have a chance to win. You might not have beat the high score in week 1. You might not have beat week 1 high score in week 2, but you might still win the weekly prize.
Right.
Right over there, sure.
If you win $1,000 one week, can you win again?
No.
So once you win once,
It's funny, yeah. It's one of those things that we had the conversation over and over and over again. And look, the weekly prize, look, $1,000 is great, but nothing compared to $1 million. And we really wanted the opportunity to have 26 people win the $1,000. If you've won it once, great. You might win the big prize. Let somebody else have a chance.
If you win the $1 million, can you win it again?
So $1 million.
No.
Next time around.
The next million's our million. So.
Go ahead.
Earlier, you guys mentioned that you think that all games and game shows are going to be going towards a mobile platform. You guys plan on seeing Millionaires Run becoming a televised show, especially being from Australia? We spoke about this earlier. Huge red Grundy era down there that has produced tons of game shows that come across over here to America as well. So, do you see Millionaires Run a television game show in the future?
Look, I think it's inevitable. It's funny, if you had asked people 5 years ago, would you sit down and watch a video game competition? Everybody would have said no, and it's happening. And I think it's going to be much more generalised. Look, I think it's similar to effectively the influencer market and the celebrity market, where originally it was people who were Hollywood, then it was TV, and now it's people who have a reach. And I think that's going to spread down into the gamer community, and I think it's going to become much more normalised. So the opportunity for anybody around the world to log in, probably pay a fee, enter an online game show via lottery or via a questionnaire, they will be playing potentially, win $1 million. China versus somebody here in
Yeah,
America.
absolutely. The fact that it's borderless makes it so much more exciting. In terms of anyone can win from anywhere with a smartphone and decent internet connection or Wi-Fi connection. So we'll see how it goes during the launch and where it takes us. But we've certainly got sort of plan A, plan B, plan C for what happens next and how to react to it.
Sir, right there, yes.
You mentioned about the lives, the 5 lives for $5.99. Is that only for one day, or is that good for the whole week's competition?
That's one day, so 24 hours. Or, as I said, you're about to get a package where you can buy it for the entire length of the competition.
And the entire length of the competition is?
6 months. So the grand prize is announced on New Year's Eve. We set it at GMT, London time.
So whoever wins, it's going to be a hell of a party for New Year's. So
Well, I think
hopefully we're invited.
In LA, I think it's probably like 6 a.m. or 7 a.m.
Okay.
So even after your big night out, you still got a couple of hours to win the $1 million.
That's right.